tend to have just noticed you.
Yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
hi.
Oh, hi,
Thanks for
Will.
What are you doing here?
Well, I was about to ask you the same thing. This is my place after all. Yeah, hi, Will. So if you could
Hey.
just introduce yourself to folks, that'd be great.
Yeah, so my name's Will Priestley. I'm probably best known in the spoon carving community as WP Woodcraft, if you've seen me on Instagram or any of my other social media. And at the moment, I'm a full-time spoon carver. I'm based in southwest England, Bristol mostly, but at the moment I'm in Somerset, which is just a bit south. And yeah, I mean that's what I'm doing at the moment, making spoons. Nice. As I'm sure you know the feeling.
Yeah. How long have you been doing that for?
For sort of full time for about the last 18 months.
Nice.
I started spoon carving, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Kind of as an accident, really. I was working in conservation in Bristol, working for the Wildlife Trust, which, for anyone not in the UK, is like a conservation charity, and they have nature reserves all over the country, practical work. It's all about sort of keeping green spaces, and so I was working for them and doing all sorts of jobs like coppicing and loads of fun practical stuff. And we were using these little axes, which I didn't know at the time, but was a Gransfors Brooks wildlife hatchet. Nice. And as you probably know, they're amazing little axes.
Yeah.
And I wanted one. I picked it up and I thought, oh, here you go. Yeah.
Years old.
So nice that you all round axe, sort of nice little hatchet. So yeah, I wanted one, and so I got one, and I thought, right, I'm not going to be coppicing every day. What can I do? And a friend of mine who you've met, Jack Labanowski,
yeah,
who's a woodworker, he'd made a few spoons, and I thought, yeah, I could do that. I was getting some wood. I was getting some wood through work, and I just took it home and started whittling away.
If we just back up a second, so if you could just explain what coppicing is, because over here in the States, there's not much of that goes on that I'm aware of, at least.
So it's kind of a sort of management technique for certain species of trees, like hazel. You get alder, sweet chestnut, the kind of trees that grow not just in one trunk, but lots of smaller trunks out of the ground. And if you keep cutting them down, they'll grow back like that. And the wood can be used for all sorts of different things, from kind of fencing poles to charcoal and things like that. And it's a good way of keeping habitat for certain animals as well, like dormice, other things like that like kind of nesting in these sorts of spaces. So I was taking volunteer groups out doing tasks like that, and tree felling and all sorts. It was great fun, but for some reason spoon carving sort of stuck. Yeah, I haven't got anything to carve, mate, but I do have some sharpening to do, so I'll get on with
do it.
Sharpening.
Yeah,
while we chat.
Excellent.
I'm inside, so carving is a bit off limits.
Right. So yeah, so you've you don't have an inside carving space then? If you could tell us a little bit about your carving space, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's kind of a workshop stroke woodshed.
Okay.
So it's undercover, which at this time of year in England is absolutely essential. But it is sort of half outside, so it's not the warmest place. And I've got my chopping block, and I've got my spoon mule, and I've got space to swing the axe. So, I mean, that's all you need, really.
Nice.
If you don't mind cold feet.
Yeah.
Which I do.
Yeah. What have you maxed out on numbers of pairs of socks?
Oh, well, just as much as I can squeeze into my shoe, really.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've had to buy bigger shoes.
Yeah, to accommodate more socks, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're sharpening at the moment. And like quite a few people that I know who are into spoon carving, they see sharpening as a chore that they put off. Like, how do you feel about
me too.
sharpening? Yeah, okay.
It is a necessary evil.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I don't particularly enjoy it, and I'm not amazing at it. So I find strop often, sharpen less often.
Okay.
Seems to work.
That would be your
So
advice.
save yourself a bit of time in the long run.
Yeah.
But then, on the other hand, I don't mind an afternoon sat in front of the TV sharpening my knives every now and then.
Yeah.
If I'm not in the mood for carving. So
Excellent.
As you know, a sharp knife is much nicer to use.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to say, oh, I'll just work with a blunt knife, and it's not worth it. Once you've sharpened them and you're back out carving, it's one of those things that you don't notice the difference until you do it sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny how like slowly the edge kind of deteriorates, and especially if you've been working with it for a while. Yesterday I was doing quite a bit of axe work.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the axe was glancing more, it wasn't biting as much. And that's for me usually a sign that it needs touching up. And then once you go back to work after sharpening it, you're like, oh, I should have done this sooner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
I do have an attitude towards axe sharpening in that sharp enough, basically, rather than really sharp.
Yeah.
Because you 3 hits with an axe and it's back to where you were before almost.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So I put a lot more effort into my knives than I will into my axe, for sure.
Yeah, you can definitely get away with like just hitting it harder, more so with the axe than other tools.
There's that when you buy a new axe. So I recently bought one of Julia Kaltoff's.
Yep.
And there's that moment which you've also got. Yeah, actually, it was partly a recommendation from you that I bought it. So I think this is such a great axe. I've had it for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, it's a fun axe.
Yeah, it's great size, great shape.
Yeah.
I got nothing bad to say about it so far.
Yeah.
But you sort of take the sheath off for the first time, and there's that feeling of this will never be this sharp again.
Yeah.
I don't want to use it because it will never be as sharp again.
Just gently, just petting it.
Yeah.
It's like
so just put it away.
You're perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at my reflection in the blade. Yeah.
So I find that like there are in woodworking especially, like there are some people who kind of just get into woodworking as an excuse to collect tools. Like it sounded like your early days was that you saw an axe, you wanted to have one, and you wanted to have a reason to have one as well.
Yeah.
So kind of like, where do you find yourself falling along the spectrum of like being a tool collector who does woodworking versus like just someone who carves and will just have the bare essentials?
Yeah, I'm on the bare essentials end of the spectrum for sure. I only have what I need.
Yeah.
Really. So, I'll find a tool that works for me, and that's good.
Yeah.
I also find it's getting used to your own tools is important if you're using them a lot and not chopping and changing, or excuse the pun, chopping and changing all the time. So, and also, I mean, tools are expensive. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely of the philosophy of pay more once.
Right.
Pay for quality and look after it, and you'll never have to do that again. So,
do you have any
splurging every now and then?
Do you have any tool regrets where you went cheap and it was a mistake?
Yes, but I'm not going to name any names.
Coward.
Well, they're big in the game, so I don't want to piss anyone off.
Yeah, fair enough. Interesting. Right, moving swiftly on. What are your core spoon carving tools? What are you using at the moment?
So I'm using the Julia Kaltoff axe.
Yep.
Mora 106.
Classic.
Which has been there from the beginning, and I've never used another knife and I've never felt I needed to.
Yeah.
And then I have from Nick Westerman is the Fawcett blade,
Yep.
which I've had for maybe 3 years,
Okay.
something like that. And I used to use a sort of combination of different blades, some that were a bit tighter, some that were less, some that were more shallow. And this does it all. So
Yeah.
it's my one and only.
Nice.
You've got a couple of his as well, I think, do you?
Yeah, yeah. So I've got a left and a right faucet blade, and then the Tuka cam that's up there is from Hans Carlsen.
Yeah.
So I did have one of Nick's, but then I sold it to a friend of mine. But yeah, Nick's blades are pretty cool. They don't get much better.
For anyone out there, if you fancy one of his tools in 2 years, get on the wait list now.
Yeah.
He keeps himself busy for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, again, like nothing bad you can say about his blades.
Yeah.
Not being a sort of hoarder of tools, I don't have loads of comparisons, but all I can say is that does exactly the job that you want it to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then because I've been using a spoon mill for the last 5 or 6 months, I bought one of Sean Hellman's draw knives.
Ooh. Oh, nice.
Which is the first draw knife I've ever owned.
Yeah.
And I did a bit of shopping around and I had some recommendations. And I know Sean, I don't know him, I've met him a few times, and he's a lovely bloke and has an excellent reputation in the community.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons I bought it is because of the hollow ground back. I don't know if you can see.
Yep, that's showing up.
Just for ease of sharpening, basically.
Yeah.
And it is a doddle to sharpen.
Nice.
But I've got no regrets. I love it, and I wouldn't go back to not using the spoon mill anymore.
Yeah. How long have you been using that?
I built it in about, I want to say August.
Oh, so recently then.
Yeah, and then sort of just in time for the Christmas, building up stock for Christmas. So
yeah,
production carving of cooking spoons and things like that. It was just a revelation, basically. And now I use it on every single spoon, even the small ones. It's indispensable now.
I find myself getting frustrated with knife work if I'm like trying to remove too much, and like I'm just like, I just take it to the spoon mill. It's so much quicker.
Yeah, and just so much easier.
Yeah, use big back muscles, both hands on the tool. Yeah,
and you can, things like spatulas.
Yeah,
that I would only do on commission before are now just like easy.
yeah, and you have to make the noise while you're carving as well.
So. Yeah, because they're actually silent.
Yeah.
All the sound effects come from me.
Yeah, you do all your own Foley work.
Yeah. But you've been using one for a few years now, haven't you?
Yeah, it was a game changer. I've kind of like, I resisted getting too much like kind of like what I referred to as like shop furniture for a long time. But that's because like when I started out carving, I was traveling a lot, so I really liked, just a core bunch of tools like a chopping block and then you're done. And it was I liked that. And then I got a carving shop, and so like I've been able to fill it with crap.
There's a space.
Yeah, I'm super. I love this place.
Talking about the kind of minimalist nature of spoon carving, that's definitely one reason that I got into it in the first place, because all I needed was, well, I didn't even have a chopping block. My first chopping block was a pile of cardboard.
yeah.
So I had, I sat on a box that I found in the garage, and I had a little pile of cardboard, and I axing by my feet.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you need to carve a spoon? You need an axe and a couple of knives.
Yeah. It's so simple.
Yeah. And a spoon mill, actually.
Yeah, and a spoon mill. Yeah.
as it
and
turns
access
out.
to your own woodland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Preferably. So yeah, so speaking of like the kind of low barriers to entry, like why should someone try carving a spoon for themselves? Like, what do you think are the benefits of spoon carving?
I mean, I think I'd find it quite funny that spoons are something that we all use at least once a day,
Yeah.
and yet making them is seen as weird.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
what? You make spoons? Like, come on, you've just used one to make the cup of tea that you're drinking,
Yeah.
or to eat your porridge. So, I mean, first, yeah, it is nice to eat a meal with a spoon that you've carved yourself,
Yeah.
in the same way that it's nice to eat a meal when you've grown the vegetables.
Right. Yeah.
So there's that satisfaction of not making something from nothing, but turning, a log into something useful.
Yeah.
I think also it's an opportunity to take time out of everything else, because you can't, we're having a conversation here, but you can't fully pay attention to the conversation and carve in the same way that you would be if we weren't talking. And it forces you to take that time out and really focus on something, and you can get away from any other crap in your life. Some people find it very meditative.
Yeah.
Some people just like to zone out, and I like to stick on a podcast. Or
Yeah.
I think, yeah, for a lot of people, especially who do it as a hobby, it is that kind of escape, and the sort of connection to what you're actually carving.
Yeah.
That thing in your hand now came from a tree that lived in the ground, and
Yeah.
there's just lots of nice things to think about in terms of like that sort of connection with nature. And it's not for everyone, and you teach a lot, and I'm sure a lot of the people you teach will only do it at one time.
Yeah.
But you must be familiar with that sort of look of satisfaction when they go away with something and they're like, I'm going to cook my dinner with this tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. I made this.
Yeah, I made this.
Yeah.
So I don't know, there's lots, and it's different for everyone. I mean, for us, get into spoon carving because you can make a bit of money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's our
We're doing it for a living now, so
yeah.
I mean, if you want to be a millionaire, it's not the best option, but
Yeah, if you want to be a millionaire, start out as a billionaire,
yeah,
and then get into spoon carving.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you spent all your money on tools.
Yeah. 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 So what was your decision to, like, choosing like 6 months before a global pandemic to start your own business? Like, why did you pick that time?
Oh, well, because I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, to go from having a steady income,
Yeah.
to not. I mean, one of the things is that at the time I decided to start doing this full time, I was actually working seasonal work, ecology stuff.
Yeah.
So from kind of late February to late November, I was doing ecological surveys all over the place. And then this in the winter, I'd go full time in time for Christmas and stuff like that. So it wasn't so much I was giving up a full time thing. It was just a shift away from the other thing and towards this. And I was fed up of it, to be honest. I'd done it for a few years, a lot of driving involved, not really any career progression that I was interested in. And I thought I'd give it a go. I like spoon carving, so why don't I do it more often and see if I can do something with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have you found that spoon carving has changed for you now that it's a full-time thing?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the different sort of issues you have with it, they, instead of So one of the sort of questions that you sent me before was like struggles of spoon carving, things
Right.
that you struggle with and how you overcome it. And I think if you ask people who are doing it for a hobby or haven't been doing it very long, they'll say things like, "I can't get a clean finish in the bowl.
Yeah.
That transition between the bowl and the handle is really tricky,"
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't have those issues anymore, like skills wise. So the struggles that I have are kind of keeping things fresh when it's something that I'm doing all the time. Like at the moment when I've got an order of 72 cooking spoons to make, and you just get in this sort of monotonous cycle. And I've been doing the same before Christmas, building up stock. So I don't have the time to I want to spend a whole day carving one spoon
Right.
that I want to make,
Yeah.
I want to try some new things, and you just don't get that time. So I think that's the big difference, is less of carving what you want to make, basically, and more of what you need to make. I think there's a difference. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah. It's like there are still times where I will like purposefully set aside time to just like futz on a spoon.
I think
It's
that's
usually,
important.
yeah, it's usually one that's still like part of a series. So I'm doing 40 of these, and like right now I know that I can take as long as I want during this call on this spoon, that
Yeah,
like we were saying, like there's a lot that I would do on the draw knife that I'm doing with a little knife right now. But it's fun. Like for me, the tactile sensation of like just removing wood is nice. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But yeah, it's for me, like the big difference was like you said, I had the technical skills, I was a competent carver, but then it's a business, and so there's the business side of things that I've actually quite enjoyed learning about. But it was something that I kind of like in my naive mind was like, I make spoons, I will just sell them, and then
yeah,
without
yeah.
realizing what just sell them entails.
Oh yeah, that's definitely all the stuff that comes with it that isn't spoon carving.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it,
marketing and accounts and all that stuff.
and
But
it's fun, and for me that kind of keeps it fresh as well. And it's a job, like all my other
yeah,
jobs that I've had that I've enjoyed also had sides to them that weren't so much fun.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's why it's called work.
Yeah.
But but I think I've spoken to you a little bit about this before, and you said you quite enjoy the sort of repetitive stuff.
Yeah, I was born without an imagination, so my work isn't very creative. And so I quite like simple utilitarian forms.
Yeah,
And so yeah, there's that feeling of accomplishment. Like once you've got those 70 spoons done, like being able to look at that pile, seeing like the consistency there, like
or
for
not.
me, yeah. you as the maker are gonna see all of the imperfections, but like when you show it to other people, they're gonna think they look pretty much identical.
But that's why people buy things from us and not from machine-made supermarket cooking
Yeah,
spoon, because they are different. There are things that only we will notice as spoon carvers, or
yeah,
another spoon carver will notice, and there's things that every person will see, and different things will appeal to different people. But I I almost make an effort to not make things the same.
right, okay,
I can,
yeah,
similar but not the same,
yeah,
because of that. Because that's why I do what I do, and working with Greenwood.
yeah,
That is sort of part of it, isn't it? We work with what the wood gives you
yeah,
instead of
yeah.
forcing it to your own ideas.
Because you were struggling with some maple recently, weren't you?
Oh man, this week,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a sycamore tree that I've been working
Oh,
from
sycamore. Sorry.
for ages. Which sycamore, English sycamore is different to American sycamore, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is a maple type of maple,
Yeah.
and it's been such nice wood to carve until this week. I don't even know what it was. It was the other half of the log was perfect, this half, there was no, it didn't have a knot or anything, but it was just one of those that you spend half a day whacking
Yeah.
to try and split it, and the splits go everywhere you don't want them to go, and
Yeah.
everywhere you didn't realize they went until you started carving. And it was one of those days where you just probably was a bit tired anyway and not totally in the mood, and adding insult to injury. So had a bit of an Instagram rant.
Yeah. A fun rant for the rest of us, at least.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also, I think I probably said on the Instagram post, so much of Instagram is about successes and things going right,
Yeah.
and not, loads of people message me to say like, oh, it's so nice to see behind the scenes, like, because normally they see, oh look, suddenly I've produced this whole pile of spoons. Last time you saw me, I had a log, and now I've got all these spoons, and you see nothing in between.
Yeah.
And I think as a sort of brand, you do kind of want to show people the good stuff.
Yeah.
Because you want to show your best side, but then there's the human side of it, of that fucking pissed me off, man. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because like I feel like for me on social media, like I'll usually show my successes because I'm a very insecure person. But then, or I'll show like the massive failures, that like the mugs that crack, my attempt at a fork where I've snapped off one of the times. Yeah, but then there's that kind of like in between of stuff that like just didn't quite turn out right. That like it's a bit of a fuzzy surface, or like you finished it, but there's still some grain tear out. And like if you were to get under that, it would probably ruin it. And
yeah,
I think that's a tricky thing to communicate, that like here's the thing that I've done, like I'm not happy with it. It's not obvious that like what's wrong with it necessarily, or it's like a small error.
Yeah.
But, like I think that a lot of people go through that experience, and like it's a difficult, like trying to split a log that doesn't want to split. Like you will split it, but then you end up with these spoons that like the grain's all over the place, so it's hard to get a clean finish. And you're like, well, it's kind of done, but
was it worth? Well, I think that's a big thing, difference between doing it, sort of making as many spoons as we do to sell, and doing it as a hobby, is that sense of that'll do.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it does have a bit of tear up, but I've got to move on to the next one now.
Yeah.
Whereas, a lot of people would want to keep going until it was just right.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I do still do to a certain extent, but definitely, yeah, there's a lot of, okay, next one.
And I think that's what makes spoon carving as a hobby so fun, is that like wood will throw up these like really weird problems for you to solve.
Yeah.
And you can just be like, okay, like how do I get past this knot? Whereas, if you're having to crank out, how many are you doing? 70, was it?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you're like, this has a knot in it. See you later.
Exactly.
Like on to the next one. And like
how often these days do you pick up the gnarliest bit of wood just for a challenge?
Oh, never.
Never. It's like,
yeah.
I don't even look at it twice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I recently I posted a picture of like a bunch of spoons that I was getting rid of that I like were half finished, and I had a lot of people being like, oh, can you send them to me? And it's like, I mean, like I understand why you would want them, because like they have these fun problems that you could spend time solving. But like I don't see that appeal anymore, because it's like, oh, this would just stress me out, because like I know this has got like wavy grain in it, and it would take me ages to finish.
Yeah, there's a big thing in sort of when to give up. I think someone said, because every now and then we all post pictures like that, or like the slightly provocative, here's me burning all the spoons I don't like.
Yeah. Sacrifice to the spoon gods.
Yeah. And someone will always say like, oh, you should have posted them to me. I would have paid for postage.
Yeah.
But I mean, somebody said it's never too, what was it? it's never too early to quit or too late,
Right. Yeah.
which I thought
Yeah.
was good. Whenever
Yeah.
you feel you're done with it, chuck it. And what I always do is just cut it in half so I'm not tempted to come back to it.
Nice. Yeah, that's nice and final. Are you aware of the sunk cost fallacy?
Say that again.
The sunk
Sunk cost.
cost fallacy.
Go on.
So it's a fallacy that we have where, because we've put time into a thing, we think we should keep on putting more time
Oh,
into it.
okay.
But that those costs are gone already. That like, oh, I've spent an hour on this spoon, but a crack has appeared. I don't want to waste all that time. Like, that time's gone. You can't
Yeah.
get it back. So if there's a crack, it might be like, well, goodbye.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's a thing that like, humans are just monkeys in shoes, and so we've got all these like weird things going on where we're not the most logical.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a lot of I mean, you could get really philosophical about what is time worth, and
Yeah.
like the better you get at spoon carving, the faster you can carve a spoon, and yet should you charge less for it because it took you less time to carve? Things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could spend an hour on just this, but
Yeah.
yeah, I find that quite interesting, all that stuff.
Are you focusing just on spoons at the moment, or are there other things that you're making as well?
Pretty much. I've been turning bowls, although I haven't got on the lathe for months actually now. But I mean, spoons is sort of my speciality. It's something that I can really like. Now I can make a lot of spoons in not too much time, whereas it takes me half a day to turn a bowl still, and half a day for my legs to recover afterwards. So while I've been busy, I just don't get the opportunity, and my lathe's outside as well, so it's not the most pleasant thought to spend half a day outside at the moment where it's pretty grim weather.
Yeah.
But yeah, spoons, I don't know, spoons just grabbed me more than anything else. I don't know what it is particularly. I have an interest in sort of other green woodwork stuff, and I've made a few bits and bobs and done a bit of willow weaving and things like that, but nothing's really grabbed me like spoons.
Is there anything that you still want to try that you haven't yet?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's fair enough.
I'm up for trying everything. A bit of, I did a short joinery course a couple of years ago, and like I said, a bit of weaving, and I'm always happy to try new things, but I don't think there's anything that I'm really like itching to try.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, so you've also been putting up vlogs recently. What was your motivation behind doing that?
I don't know. There wasn't really any motivation. I just thought, well, I've just bought a new camera.
Okay, there we go. That'll do it.
So that was basically it. Because I wanted better quality pictures. So I bought a camera, and I thought as well, it'd be nice to do a few kind of not so much tutorials. You know how like Z Outdoors videos.
Yeah.
Kind of like that sort of stuff. And then I thought, I don't know of anyone who's doing a sort of vlog type thing.
Yeah.
Of just thoughts and here's what I do, and a lot of it is here's how you axe a spoon.
Yeah.
Here's how you carve the spoon. And although there's still not loads of them out there.
Yeah.
I'll probably do something like that in the future. But I just thought I'll just stick a camera in front of myself while I do what I'm doing anyway.
Yeah. They're pretty relaxing to watch. It's surprisingly like
so it's called Spoon Carving Diaries.
Okay.
And the first episode is on YouTube now. The second one is in the works.
Okay.
But yeah, there's no plan of action with it. Just see how it goes, and if I've not got anything to put out there, then I won't, and if I do, then I will.
Nice.
So
and what's how can people find your YouTube channel? What's the name?
So it's Will Priestley Woodcraft,
Okay.
But I think if you search spoon carving diaries, it should come up, and there's probably a picture of me in the thumbnail.
And where else can people find you online?
Yeah, so my Instagram is where I'm most active,
Yeah.
at WP Woodcraft. My website, wpwoodcraft.co.uk. If you want to sign up to my newsletter, then I post stuff out every now and then, and a few sort of exclusive subscriber only offers and things like that. But yeah, Instagram is probably my best place to get hold of me if you want to, or see regular stuff from me.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me, Will. That was
Yeah,
a,
no
a
worries,
great
Tom.
conversation.
Good to speak to you. Nice to hear that Wisconsin accent again.
Oh yeah. Authentic Madison accent.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I've recently learned all of the US states and state capitals, and
Oh, you have?
you're the reason that I remember Madison, Wisconsin.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Why did you do that?
Why not?
Yeah.
Felt like it.